Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Bilingual Find Your Place podcast. Desiring to show that it is possible to make unpopular choices, even out of the norm, and be happy, wishing to prove that happiness comes from choosing yourself rather than giving in to popular pressure, I receive people who have made the best of a situation that put them in the different box. My name is Stephanie Bergo, and I'm the host of this show. I've been working as a potential catalyst for more than 10 years, and my mission is to allow people to give themselves the right to be all that they are, and thus believe that their dreams are achievable. Welcome to these interviews. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Find Your Place podcast, the bilingual podcast in French and English, sometimes depending on the invitee, that will bring you to meet people with extraordinary path of life. They chose themselves, and I'm super, super happy that Lotta, you answered. I sent openly in a group. I'm looking for people that have special path and that want to share it with us, and you write to me back. I was super, super happy. Thank you. So I'm happy to having Lotta Siebold for the podcast today.
Thank you so much, Stephanie. I'm super grateful to be here. Yeah, thanks for inviting me.
That's super fun. We've talked a couple of minutes before beginning the podcast because we don't know each other. We just chat on Messenger a bit, and we were talking about traveling a bit. So I would be interested that you talk a bit about your, like now you live in in Puerto Vallarta in Mexico, but you were not always there.
No, I'll try to keep it brief because I mentioned there's quite a few points there on the journey, right? So I'm German. I'm originally from Berlin. That's where I lived all of my life until I was 21. I'm 27 right now. With 21, honestly, I have no idea why. It was very weird in that moment. It was very unlike me. I got this tingle and I was very scared. I never traveled on my own super far. Family vacations were always in Europe. So I had this tingle. I was like, I have to get out of here. So I booked a one-way flight to New Zealand on my own because I knew it had to be on my own. My back then boyfriend wasn't very happy about that.
Oh,
So
no surprise, but well.
Yes, yeah, we actually did break up through the process because guess who I met in New Zealand? My partner Ryan, who I am still 6 years after together with, and we're now having our business together, FitWell Fusion Coaching. So Ryan is Canadian, and we met there just by coincidence, and I'll keep it short. And because of that, after we had this really interesting and weird opportunity, I want to say, because it's like a problem, but it was an opportunity. So we kept on traveling together. He was going back to Canada. I was in Germany studying. And then we just would meet. So we would meet in Thailand. We would meet in Indonesia. We met in Greece. He came to Germany. He came to England to visit me. I studied in Ireland. He came there to see me. I came fly to Canada. And long story short, where 2020, I was really, again, another weird feeling. Ryan didn't want me to have a working holiday for Canada because he felt that that would be him imposing himself on me. So again, like he's an amazing person. Just I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm gonna say a lot of good things about him, and that's amazing.
That's perfect.
Say
We
good things
want
about my
people to be
partner.
happy when
I
with
know, but I'm
with
gonna
their
say you're gonna think I'm just glorifying him, and I'm not because I'm very realistic about these things. I will tell you his faults. I will tell you what he's doing wrong. So what he's doing right. Yeah, so he didn't want that. And I just knew again, I was like, no, I have to take this. And then 2020 rolled around. He was stuck in Malaysia. I was stuck in Germany. And then that was my entry. That was the only reason why I was allowed to go to Canada. And we were finally able to reunite after that was the longest time. That was like 6 months. That was
wow.
stressful. That was really stressful. We were at the verge of breaking up because we were like, will it have any point? will
Mm.
it? And yeah, it all turned out beautiful. We were in Canada. Things weren't going well. Gotta say that, tell you that. So we left and we picked Puerto Vallarta, Mexico. Well, he said he wanted me to choose. And I said, okay. And I did that earlier for you. I just love this. I was pretty much just like this. I'm like, okay. And then I came here because there was a dog rescue and we had some issue with this place. There was a lot of issues here because I realized now it was our field to grow. There was so many growing opportunities, healing opportunities, and it's amazing. We're still here after 2 years, going back and forth. But yeah, we love it here, and anybody come visit. Like it's amazing. There's a lot of touristy parts of it, which is really interesting, but there's a lot of really different parts. Like we live in a completely Mexican neighborhood, and people know us. It's nice, and first that was difficult as well, and now it's getting really, really nice. I just talked to a lady on the street I never talked to before, and she ended up giving me some flowers. We
Oh,
love
that's super cool.
no, plants, actually, plants, much better because now we can grow them.
That's
I
super
hope that
cool.
was short enough.
No, it's yes, and it doesn't need to be short. I love like extensive history. You were talking about the way you met, and then you were traveling. For how long did you live apart and see each other in different countries? That's super cool.
That was for 4 years,
Oh, wow.
and that was intense. That was very, very stressful and good, and obviously there was always this draw between, oh my God, is this worth it? And oh my God, this is so worth it. So it's always back and forth.
Mm,
And of course, we communicated a ton. I mean, I'm so grateful to have had this opportunity to travel, to have already the internet, and to have these means of
mm,
communication, WhatsApp. I mean, we must have written books to each other, well, actually, voice messages to each other to stay in touch. And we learned both a lot about how to manage a relationship, how to grow apart. And honestly, these parts actually apart, at least for me, and I do think for him as well, were super important because when we met, we were so different than right now. And if we would have been together in the same place, we would
mm,
have broken up so many times. But the thing is, we both knew that in the end, like not in the end, but like right now, we're an amazing mix, but we both weren't ready. So
mm,
as what I look back now, yes, there was a lot of pain, but I needed this because in its way, it was almost like we were single and on our own, independent each time. Um, and that went through, I don't know, I don't want to count it, like 6 to 8 iterations. So 6 to 8 iterations it needed for us to go where we're going right now. And there's still trouble there. But that's why I think it's important. And by no means would I suggest to people to do a long distance relationship. Please no. But what I was trying to say is that for me, as in when I was there, I mean, obviously there was something in me. So Ryan is also, he is 41 right now. So right now he's 41. I'm 30. No, hold on. He's four. Now he's 41. I'm 27. So he
mm,
was 35 and I was 21 when we met. And
mm,
there was big parts of me that he could connect to. Like I was aware of that too. There was a lot of maturity in a way in some
mm.
parts, and there was other parts, there was parts that weren't even 21. I don't know what they were somewhere stuck in childhood. So it was a weird mix, right? It was a mix that on one hand he could connect to really, really closely and tightly, and then there were the other parts who he would be like, and I would be like, so this is, and I don't know at this point. I would have to ask him if this was more for me or more for him. I would say it was more for me, and that's okay because I I chose this, and I chose to grow up a lot faster to now realize I can do everything that a kid can do with more conscious thing. I
Mm,
can play, I can love, I can dance, love and laugh actually,
mm,
and I have so much more freedom now. And have you ever heard of acrobatic yoga?
A bit, yes.
So for example, when I found that, I was like, oh my God, we as adults can play like children and can like just, so things like that. I just found the magic for one thing, but also like the just the innocence. It's more like you don't want to be like a child, but you want to have like distill or distract it, extract um what it is, what you find in a child that's so nice and effortless. And if you can then take that into your everyday life and find that as an adult, because what does an adult mean in the first place? And that's going to sound, I don't know how that will land with some people. I don't see the people around me as adults. I've experienced a lot of people, and I'm going all ages. Doesn't matter whether they're in their teens, whether they're 20-ish, 30-ish, 40-ish, 50-ish. I've seen people all over the board being mature and immature. So my coach actually says, my teacher, that most people are mentally at the level of like a 12-year-old. And I found that very interesting because I found it to be true. So it's like we're having a world of adult babies running around. And that is why we clash with each other. Because the second you mature more, and he has a whole list of that, it goes from it's like stages, right? Adulthood goes after childhood, and then you go more into like a wise stage. So first, I think the phases were and I'm butchering this, by the way, I'm sorry, because I don't remember the actual things. That's where Ryan comes into play, because he could tell you exactly what it would be right now. But from what my recollection would be, that first you have the child stage, then you have adulthood, then you're going usually on like a journey, and then you're moving sort of in your kingdom, so you're like your own thing, and then you're surpassing that and you're going into your wise elder state, right? And there's a lot of people that would be sort of just stuck on this path of not really being able to transition to adulthood, because adulthood is about taking responsibility and standing in for your actions and growing and figuring things out. So I don't know right now where I am. I would say I'm like, in me is a very strange mix. So I was still dealing with stuff of the childhood, to be honest. I was just getting rid of, or actually not getting rid of, because I find include. I was including stuff from my childhood still, mending things with my parents, with my sister, tying loose ends because I left Germany. And that was a escape for sure. Not because bad things happened, but just because I felt so restrained and so
Yeah,
I
and
had to
being
break
with
up.
family is always is often a good way to know, yeah, where you grew, because being everywhere else where people know you but on a different basis is easier to be yourself than to grow out of what you've been for your parents and sisters and brothers and much closer family. So it's very interesting. And what I hear from what you're saying is that all those stages doesn't have anything to do with ages. It's much
Yes,
more
yes.
like growing into something, and you are in some phases where there's part of one and part of the other. And sometimes, and we see this in people, sometimes we're like, oh, his emotional or her emotional intelligence about that is much lower than it is about the rest, for example. And that's where you see that it's the little us that react to something, and then you take like the different step you need to heal or work or change that stuff when you realize it. But I find it very, very interesting. And sometimes I'm working with many adults, and we're working on the childhood and working on it to go back on in some cases. I mean, you were talking about being playful. I've we have a life a bit different, you and I've been in Canada for almost all my life, and I we have three kids. We're together for 16 years now, and so the adult part is very much there for many reasons: the job, the business, the everything, and we've been for the past 2 or 3 years moving a lot and changing a lot of stuff in our lives. For example, we're homeschooling our child now because we want to travel, which was a big change on many levels. But we're working, and I'm working with many and many of my clients to go back to the playful time, because when you become an adult, it's like if you are in a new square where you need to be serious and do serious stuff, and then take care of the thing you have to take care, and you forget the playful part you were talking about. And I know about acrobatic yoga because I felt drawn to it for the same reason. I was like, oh, that's so much fun. I used to do gymnastic for years and years, so I'm like, oh, that's like a new way of gymnastic without the breaking part and everything.
Very much so, yeah.
So that's super interesting because I see it as a mix. And instead of being maybe like a skill, it's much more like phases, like a whole. There's a part of us and different part and different quantities of us that is still in childhood, maybe in adulthood, maybe in the wise part or the kingdom part, and sometimes it's not all at the same times.
Yeah, it's so when you go deeper into that, so what we do too is because we do holistic lifestyle coaching as like the main thing, and then we draw from all kinds of different things in, because the biggest part is what we do is mindset, because you first have to clear the mind. That's why we get people first unstuck, so they
Mhm,
got some space and clarity in their mind, and then they can deal with all the other stuff.
mhm,
Because the holistic lifestyle coaching looks at the four aspects. It looks at the physical body, and usually that's the entrance point for somebody, and then it looks at the mental body, right? Like
mhm,
the mental stuff. Then it looks at emotions, and then it can look at spiritual, however much you believe in that, or like what expression of spirituality you believe in, and you can call it
mhm,
different names too. Like that's just his outline. And from there, I would say, so these four quadrants,
mhm,
well, maybe you can call them quadrants, each could go through that cycle, right? What you just
mhm,
said. And I very much agree that it's not like steps. It might even be a continuous circle that, even though you have this one aspect, let's just say you're doing the mental stuff, you, in the mentality, you might have been still a child, and then you grow and grow and grow, but then eventually you realize, oh, now I have a new level of realization. So I might have to go back and dig deeper into the whole child thing and heal more, and then uplift that more. So it's like continuous cycles within a cycle. That makes any
mhm.
sense.
Yes.
It's very like organic.
That's very cool. And what I used to say to my clients or my friend is, you don't have to heal everything. You don't have to be like spending all your time healing some stuff, especially if it comes from outside. I mean by that, that if someone else tells you that you need to heal this or that, it's maybe, but it's not clearly the case. And sometimes it's only growing into something. Like there's the healing part. You may decide on your own you need to heal some stuff, which I did, and probably you did too, and many people did. But often is in growing into new identity, new things, new. You were saying it's been 2 years you're in Mexico, and it that hasn't been that easy at the beginning, and then it gets easier, and now you're very well there. So it's not healing something, it's building something out of new stuff, and you need to discover yourself. And for what I understand, you were saying you moved in with Ryan, and then you moved out to Mexico, but it was brand new to live together the old time. So that was a big change. There's an age gap, which maybe sometimes you see or you don't see, because it depends. I mean, I have friends that are 30 years old, older than I am, uh, and we're like, okay. And when we start talking about cartoons, we're lost. Like, we clearly don't have the same cartoons. That's like the thing. Oh
I
yeah.
know there's a lot of things. I mean, not only really just the age gap, but you also have different cultures. So
Sure.
that's everything is there. And yeah, I mean, certain things people talk about it, and I'm like, sometimes I like that because I also like to poke people. I'm like, oh, I was too at that time because I have a lot of older friends. One of my best friends right now, he or she is, oh God, I don't want to say it wrong. I don't know if she's late 40 or beginning of 50, but like last year I had a good friend and she was at least 52. So I still have, like, I have a lot of just much older friends because it doesn't really matter. I mean, for us, it did matter in the end in terms of one topic, right? A very important topic that we found out recently was tying everything together, and that was, are we gonna have a family or not?
Mm.
Because that's very much an important topic, and we came in from two very different perspectives. Because I was like, oh my God, I'm so young, like why, like,
Yeah, too
but
early for me to think about it,
exactly,
maybe.
exactly. And then Ryan was like, yes, I agree. And that is, for him, that's sometimes very much a reason, because he tells me a lot, you know, if there's somebody else you would be more happy with, or if you need more time, go and do your life with somebody else. Like, I only want you to be in this relationship if this is the best outcome for you
Mm.
right now and in the future. And he's the first person that I met who ever said that to me.
Mm.
And oh my God, at first, so I have a big ego that right now I think I befriended a lot. So now it might not seem like it, but I had a very big ego. So that my ego would just freak out on that. I would be like, what do you mean? Like, what does this mean? You don't want to be with, like, blah, 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 bunch of
Mm.
projections. And now I realize it's love. It can't be quite unconditional because we are a condition. We in ourselves are a condition of love. So it's a very pure form of love that really is focused onto, what do you need? And that was a big part of me just stepping into that. So now I'm ready to look at his needs too. And his needs are,
Mhm.
he's slowly actually saying he's okay with that, because for the longest time he didn't want to. So now slowly he's like, I could see myself as a father, but, and if so, I would like to be as young as possible.
Mm.
I would like to be vital. I would be there for my children. So I'm like, I hear you. And the good thing is we found a win-win situation. We agreed now that that's actually what we want. And that was a big topic because that topic also tied to all these other, like, where do we want to
Yeah.
live and blah, blah, blah.
Mhm.
And now we're like, okay, cool. So 3 years, let's get all this moving, because our company is also really fresh. We did a lot of coaching here. Like, we've been seasoned coaches, but together, like, obviously together, and saying we are actually one company. We've
Mm.
been doing that, like, behind the curtains a little bit, but obviously saying, hey, we're a couple and we're also together as business, it's been
Mm.
very fresh, and also moving into the online space. So we want to make sure, like, we're also planners. I'm really moving my right brain right now, creativity, but, like, from where we come from, very much left brain. So
Mhm.
we like stability. We know it's very big responsibility. So we want to make sure we are ready. And that's why we're going to give it 3 years, 2 to 3 years, to get ready, to be like, okay, we're in a place and space where we can support a family, but we're still going to do it sooner than I would have maybe thought. And that's
Mm.
okay, because I actually figured, like, I'm ready to. My insecurities were more that I was like, oh my God, like, I'm still figuring myself out. How can I? And that is where I went into my stories and I cleared out my stuff. And I was like, okay. Because, how can somebody who's not really talking well with their family and who's having some troubles with their sister and just, how can they
Mm.
be a good mother? So now going and having cleared out that and actually now having a great time with my parents. I had amazing 2 months, having a close relationship with my sister, having more and more friends. I'm like, of course I can. Of course. I was
Mm.
just limiting myself and I was
True.
scared. I was just really scared.
And that's normal. And
Yeah.
I'd like to tell you, just from my perspective, what I knew I was pregnant for the first time. I was 21, so it was the time you met your now partner, and so I had a baby. I was 22, and I had another baby at 32, and another one at 34. So now we have three of them, and my older daughter is now gonna turn 18 in 3 weeks, and that time goes like in a blink. And honestly, at 22, I was very scared not to be a good parent and not to be ready. And for many, many reasons, I wasn't. But for other reason, I became very ready very fast. And I often say that businesses and maternity are the same thing for me, or very close on many, many ends. For example, they outgrew you. I've been becoming a better person for all three of them. Through them, I've learned about myself and I healed some stuff about me to make sure that I offer them the best, and that they are recognized as the unique person they are. And each of them are very different and are very, very precious. And they help me grow like at a level where my business in the past 20 years, I've done the same. When I had employees, I needed to assess conflicts sometimes, and partnership and some stuff. So on other level, there's many, many things that are similar. And I often say, if I had to think about becoming a mother, I would have been waiting for years and years, because I was like, maybe I'm not ready, maybe it's not a good time, maybe there's the school, and then there's the business, and then there's and life give me the gift of becoming a mother without having to think about it. And but so everything revolution around her for many years, and she's older now, and I figured out about the money to make sure that everything was okay. I figured out about the studies that I needed to finish. I figured out, I find like my actual husband, Lorelai was 2 years old when we met. So I figured out how to rebuild something with somebody else having those. So the thing you're learning now and the discussion you're having, because he's a bit older and you're a bit younger and things are going maybe a bit too fast and a bit too slow and a bit, honestly, we've been together for 16 years, and it's been like we have only 3 years difference, and we have those kind of conversation depending on, I would leave Canada tomorrow morning and he's like, no, not yet. No. And so we're having those type of conversation in every area, not only in the family thing. And this one is very meaningful because it's important. There's other humans that are gonna rely on you and Ryan, of course. But honestly, this is the part, for me, it's the parts that blend the best with everything you want to do, because they're gonna follow, they're gonna be happy, they're gonna learn through your experiences. So that's gonna be a nice stage. I will be watching, honestly, for you to become a mom and to choose wherever you want to live and whatever you want to do. And we're gonna cross road, because maybe you were talking about stability and having maybe a place of your own and having the money and everything. And I did that very, very young because the situation I just told you. But honestly, we're like kind of going back on the other side now. We're like, okay, we've had the money, we're taking care of them, everyone's eating, everyone's okay, everyone's taken care of. Now what do we want to do? We want to travel, we want to meet new people. We want them to discover stuff on another level. So it's super funny. You'll see that those are cycles.
Very, very much. I was gonna say that too. Yeah, because I heard that too. So by the way, now I'm super, super excited for that. Now I'm like, I could do it tomorrow, but not, but I won't, because I know there's a natural order to things, and I know it's very important to make the nest. And I'm now it's just like I'm excited and it's fine, because I used to be a very like instant gratification type of person, and now I'm okay waiting, because I can see it's the same as if somebody's like, I would just want to be there. But what about the way? What about if you're driving somewhere and if there's nice nature outside, nice things you can look at, nice people you can meet? Isn't that better than just being instantaneously there? Yeah, sometimes it's good to be fast and very German, like very like, oh, I was there. Yeah, but like the way is nice. So I'm just happy because there's so much more learning and healing and everything we can do until we're there. And I'm just excited for that. And then it's another step. And I agree that it is a cycle, because now you guys you grew up super fast so that your children could grow up. And now that they're older, they're taken care of, they're a more independent person. Now you're like, okay, we're still there, but you guys are doing your own thing, which is, by the way, like a really big thing for parents, right? So
Yes.
it's a very, very important thing. And
One of the
um
biggest challenges I have to
mhm.
overcome.
Yeah. So my mom and I were constantly in contact about that, and it was rough. And now it's much
It
better.
is.
So now you guys, it's almost like now you're at the stage again where you're a little bit like a child again, and now you can figure out again how in this stage of life, as like a parent, but a parent of all the children, you can now find yourself. And what we just talked about, that cycle, right? You're going through the
Mm,
cycle again in a different way, because you guys are
totally,
different now as
totally.
a
And
relationship.
really, and parenting is very different. If you would have talked to my older daughter, she would tell you, like, I'm not the same mom I was with her today with her younger brother and sister. First, I had 10-year difference, so I grew up a lot, and she's one of the reason why I grew up that much too. But honestly, when I was younger, a bit like you were talking about your ego, when I was younger, I wanted to be a good mom, and good mom for me was like in a box. You needed to be always there, you needed to cook, you needed to, and what the other people will think if she does this or this. So I was much more controlling and much more stressed about many things, and growing myself and seeing her grow and evolve. And I was like, okay, so now, like 10 years ago, I would have never removed her from school. For me, it was the
Mhm.
structure, it was necessary, and finally, we did it at the end of her secondary with the other two. And so things change. You evolve as a person and you evolve as a mom, and you get much more. Also, you were talking about the kingdom. There's some stuff in my life, I'm there where I know like everything can be manageable and everything, I'm okay with that. And if other people think it's not okay, well, that's their problem, because I feel very comfortable. But it took years of maternity to get to that point. So it's the same in relationship, it's the same in traveling, it's the same in business. So that's super
It's
cool.
super, super interesting. And you touched a really important point. So I have one younger sister, so I'm the oldest. And all these have meanings, right? Because I'm the oldest of two, but then if I was the oldest of three or four, it'd be different. If I was the youngest, like my sister had a very different experience growing up, and we all have, because um I think there is a thing with the mom and the oldest daughter, that, and there's things with everybody, because the mom and the oldest daughter, they agreed in a way, I think, to go through some stuff together. And you can actually
That's
I didn't
funny.
want to swear, but you can do stuff, and you can say something else there, to figure things out together, right? So you are, because the first time you hold a baby in your hand is very different, and fortunately, I actually have a lot of experience with that because I babysit a lot. So I feel I got a lot of experience with children. I'm like, yeah, for me, it wouldn't be that scary. I did this. I changed diapers. I've been caring for crying babies. I've been annoyed. So it'll be good.
Mm.
So, um, but yeah, so that's a really important thing, right? Because I was always like, oh my God, she can do stuff so much earlier than me. What's going on? And my mom, she was trying to reason with me and slowly it got in, but really only like now.
Yeah, I totally get you. I'm the older of five.
Right. So, I
So
mean, you
I'm the
probably
first
also,
daughter. We're five girls. I've
Mhm.
experienced that for years, and now
Yeah.
having kids, I'm like, oh, that's why.
And only the understanding later. And then also, of course, you took on some mother roles too, because you have younger siblings, and it's very important. But then honestly, the younger one, whether it's the youngest of two or multiple, it's hard too, because you're
Absolutely.
seeing your mom going through that process of slowly letting go, but you're still there. So you might get even more attention. So
Mm,
it's a very, very interesting role, and I do think do see some similarities in how most of older
mm,
siblings act and how most of
totally.
youngers, not all of them, but some of them.
Yeah.
And it's very, very interesting. And then
There's
also,
very interesting
yeah.
studies about that. Like
Mm-hmm.
I've read about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 children in the same household, and how they react and how they become like autonomous or not. And it's very, very interesting. That's super fun. And it brings like what you're saying about the impression, like when you look at the same, and we've did, like my sister and I are a bit older than you are, and we've did the exercise, because sometimes there were frustrating time where we were like, how come? And we did compare the same moment, and we had completely different outcomes,
Yeah.
and we were
Yeah.
like, oh, you saw that like this, oh, that's very strange, I saw it completely differently. And it was super interesting to see that. I was like, okay, and that helped me as a person to realize that. And now I call it my world card. My world card is much different than yours and much different from everybody else. Because if even my sister that grew up with me in the same family, in the same house, and same for my kids, they grew up together and they see things differently, even though the situation was at the same time. I was like, okay, so that means that the world card you have, your personality, your learning, your situation, really impact what you see and what you bring like out of a situation. And it helped me grow as a coach and as a person, clearly.
Absolutely, because what this is that you have a story, she has a story, and usually what happens is we're not telling the same story because our stories are biased. They are not objective, they're subjective, and that's
Mm,
okay. But that's really where our mindset coaching comes in, because these stories that people tell, they're loaded with conflict language that make the story, that blow them up, make them bigger, make them huge, make them dramatic,
mm,
because you're the there's a lot of stories that go on people's head at various stages, but it's a lot of like, oh my God, the world's doing this to me, or everybody else is doing this to me,
mm,
poor me, this and that. A lot of victim mentality going on. And that's where you can either write a story and tell a story and even think a story that is very more towards objective and being like, I just observe. Then
mhm.
you use architect language, or you're like, well, I can also bathe in the drama and use more conflict language and then use all these things. So that's why I found this tool to be one of the most powerful, to just be out there and tell the stories a little less dramatized, because do we really need more drama in our life? At least for me, I'm like, nah, no,
No.
thank you. But the thing is, you can also use it. You can use it in a smart way, because it's it is in the end like a weapon. It's sharp. It hurt me before. I
Mm,
learned how to use it more delicate, because that's the thing. I believe it's very funny we talk about tools, because tools are super useful. It's the same as fire. Fire is amazing. Fire can burn you. Be
yeah,
wise
exactly.
with it, right? So I wasn't wise for a while. I screwed it up a little bit. I caused us a lot of hurt, and I learned to respect the tool more. And I also learned, but within that, I also learned, okay, it can help me build more connection with the people I want to connect with. And also it can help me push away people that I don't want to connect with. Like I can now smoothly transition. And it's very, very interesting to do that. Yeah.
I think that's part of the path though. You were talking about when you go somewhere, the landscape and everything. I think that every experience is like that. Like instead of looking at the like, I mean, look in your vision, look at the end objective, but be sure to love the path you're crossing or following, or you need to do the tragic. And I often say to entrepreneur or newly entrepreneur, like maternity as well as entrepreneurship, as well as a marriage, as well as it's not the you don't wake up a morning and being a great mom or a great entrepreneur or a great partners. You grew and you live together, you do the experience, you learn on every step of the way, and one day you're comfortable, and then new stuff coming, you learn new stuff, you start again. And I think it's the path. Like I have one of my mentor that says it's a mountain with no peak.
Very
Like
true. Yeah.
you continuously learning. So I think that what you're saying is, yes, you learn about the tools, yes, you learn to use them, and yes, you burn yourself one time, two times, three times, maybe more.
As
And
many times
but
as I need, right?
yeah, but each time you learn. And when you live with someone, like you're talking about Ryan, you live aside with someone, and the more you live aside, like we're five in our family, I learn stuff from my husband and he learns stuff from me, and we learn together where we want to go and how we want it to be. And the relationship today is not the one we had like at the beginning, and it's not the one we had when we were nesting and having those little babies. And it's like everything grows, and each time someone you live very close with grow, you grow as well. Like the kids are we were saying it's not easy for a parent to see your kids grow. Clearly my daughter, she's now having the license, she's moving on her own, she has a boyfriend, she's doing her stuff. So you have to learn the right amount of being there to make sure she knows you're there and you're helpful, and not too much, because you don't want to do it for her, you don't want her to feel that it's scary. You want, so you're learning like the nice amount of being there and being just looking. And it's the same, like you're building autonomy, and it's probably the same with your client. You don't want to be, you don't want them, the kids or the clients or everyone, being dependent on you. You want them to be autonomous, I think.
Yeah.
So that's exactly that. And you learn, and the more you add people living with you by your side, the more you learn about yourself, about the other one. And I always say in a relationship, there's three here. There's you, there's him, there's the relationship. And it has to keep separated on some level, not on everything. I would like to come back a bit, because we are having an amazing conversation, but you were talking about the business you now own together, and you were also talking about studying earlier. What did you study, and did you start the business you have now right after? I'm a bit
Right. Actually, the funny thing is that this is a pretty big topic right in itself. And I actually do have to go in 5 minutes. So I don't know if you want to hear about that a different time or something.
Sure.
In just I can just quickly give you the rundown in a nutshell that Ryan and I, we help people get unstuck, then to make change, and then to create happiness. And that's our thing. And because we find coaching a little bit just a little hard to grasp sometimes. We show people in a free Facebook group, free 6 weeks program. We're like, just go through that program with us, enjoy it, learn what we do. If you like it, obviously there's more. You can work with us one-on-one and all these things, but just try it out first. And that's really our big offering, the 6-week program for free. There's interaction. People can talk to us directly. We have live content, and we actually have a new software so we can get people on the screen and they can right there chat with us, exchange thoughts, ask questions. It's really nice. And we found that to be super valuable.
Super cool. Would you like to tell us where's that group and send it to me? I'm gonna put it under the conversation so people can go and look at it clearly.
Yes, thank you so much. So we are called FitWell Fusion Coaching. So on Facebook and on LinkedIn and on Instagram, you can find us at FitWell Fusion Coaching. And it's the little F with the it's the orange F. No, sorry, it's the violet. Is that the right name?
Yes.
Purple F with the orange mannequin walking there. No, I'm screwing it up.
No, that's perfect. That's super cool. And I'm
look
gonna
for the purple and orange. It's the purple background, orange F. Now I got it. And I'm like, what? Wait. I was just seeing the purple there. I'm like, there's purple everywhere. Anyways, so and there you can find the group there. It's called Get Unstuck, Make Change, Create Happiness. So you can either look for the group themselves or you can go through our website. I'll send you both links. Yes. And website is fitwellfusion.com. And just get in touch with us. We love having conversations with people. That's why we want to build community. That's why we want people to come in the group and just introduce themselves. Be like, hey, that's who I am. That's how I know you guys. That's why I'm here.
Super cool. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for that conversation. It's been amazing. Thank you, people, for watching or for listening. Please feel free to put question if you have some underneath, and if they're for Lotta, I'm gonna forward them to her so she can answer as well. See you soon in another episode. Thanks, Lotta, for your presence today. It was amazing.
Thanks for your questions. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for listening to this episode. Come back next week with another guest that has a fascinating story to tell and that will inspire you to take action towards your own path. If you like this show, I'm inviting you to leave a 5-star review. That way, it helps us to spread the work and fulfill our mission even more. The podcast is also available in a video format on YouTube. You'll find it under the same name, Trouve ta place, Find your place, under Catalyseur de Potentiel. Let's connect on social media. You'll find me as Stéphanie Bergo or Catalyseur de Potentiel on Facebook or Instagram. Have a great day.